Hey, 8th grade. So our learning target today is I can solve equations containing radicals and fraction bars. You should be on page 13. Okay, so we're going to still use order of operations today, but we actually use it backwards, and it's going to be an equation. So therefore, when we talk in Ms. Volkman's class about order of operations backwards, we actually call it the hand method. A lot of teachers call it inverse operations. So we're going to be doing all the subtract, add, multiply, divide exponents first, kind of in reverse order, and then we'll hit parentheses, fraction bars, radicals, absolute value. Now, again, I call that in my class hand method. So that's kind of what you would be thinking about. So what about when there's a fraction bar in an equation? So you can see there's an equation here. There's clearly a variable x on the numerator, and we have all that equaling to 2. The first step that we would be doing is simplify the numerator. Clean that up. Basically, get it down to one number, clean it up. So after we simplify that numerator, and you can abbreviate any of these things, we're going to simplify the denominator. So simplify numerator, simplify denominator. So clean that up as well. And then we're going to defraction and solve. So we'll talk about how to kill the denominator, defraction to solve. Go ahead and get those steps down. Okay, so as we start to solve then, we're going to clean up that numerator. In the numerator, we have 8x plus 2. Those are unlike terms, so there's nothing I can do. I'm kind of just done with that. So step 1, nothing I can do. Those are unlike terms. In the denominator, though, I can clean it up. I'm going to stop, chop, chop for sure. I have a triangle problem coming out of this, which is negative 8. So we have 5 plus 9 plus negative 8, working left to right then. In the numerator, we get 8x plus 2. In the denominator, we have 14 plus negative 8 is 6 equals 2. So that denominator becomes 14 plus negative 8, which is 6. Hand method kicks in. I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to cover all of this because it's unlike terms. I'm going to kill denominator, which is called defraction. Kill denominator. To do that, I'm going to multiply nice and high by 6. Copy, paste. Working left to right then, guys. If I haven't used it, drag it down. I get 8x plus 2 equals 12. Hand method kicks in the rest of the way. Take your hand, cover the variable 8x, the variable x, and 8 is attached to it. Take your hand, cover all of that. What am I getting rid of? Plus 2. To get rid of that, I minus 2. Copy, paste. Working left to right then, I get 8x equals 10. Solving, get that x totally alone. Divide by 8, copy, paste. We end up with x equals 1.25. Answer is 1.25. Of course, we should plug back in and check to make sure that's okay. But what we did is, let's go back to kind of what we did here. We simplified the numerator. We were unable to because they were unlike terms. I did work through the process of simplifying the denominator, order of operations, and I ended up getting a 6 out of that. At the next step, then, I killed denominator, copy, paste, and then it turned into the hand method on that very last step, 8x plus 2 equals 12, hand method rest of the way. Okay, so what about when we have a radical? Keep in mind that a radical is a square root. Remember, radicals are just square roots. All right, so here's our steps for radicals. Step 1, simplify so the square root is all by itself. We'll talk about how to do that. Simplify so the square root is all by itself. After I do that, then, we're going to square both sides. So we're going to go ahead and square both sides. And we're done with that. We're going to solve. So hand method's going to kick in again. We've got to get square root all by itself. Solve both sides. We'll have 2 problems to solve in here. Keep writing those notes. Steps 1, 2, and 3. So we kind of have the hand method idea going on here. We're going to take our hand and cover all of this. I'm going to stop, chop, chop this so I don't get confused on sign. To get rid of that negative 4, I'm going to add 4, copy, paste. Add 4, copy, paste. Working left to right, then I get 10 equals. If I haven't used it, drag it down. And I have 0. That's simplified to get the square root all by itself. I just got the square root all by itself. Now I'm going to square both sides. I'm going to get rid of the square root of 5x. So I'm going to take a power of 2, copy, paste. Working left to right, then I get 100 equals. If I square the 5x, take the square root of 5x and square it, I end up getting 5x to drop out of that. Squaring, square rooting opposites, 5x drops out. Divide by 5, copy, paste. We get 20 equals x. X equals 20. Okay, so thinking about what we did, we put our hand over here. We got rid of the 4 to get the square root by itself. To get rid of a square root here, we have to take the square of it to cancel because they're opposites. They cancel. 5x drops out. Copy, paste. Now, whatever we do to one side, we do the other. So we have to paste that square on the other side. That's 10 times 10 is 100. Hand method kicks in, and we're done. Next problem here. Solving. Get the square root all by itself. That's already done. Square root is already by itself right here. Already by itself. So next thing is I'm going to square both sides. So I'm going to take the square of both sides. I'm going to square this. Copy, paste, square that. Working left to right then. I get 36 on the left. When I take the square root, so when I square a square root, they cancel each other out. So that 5x minus 4 drops out. And I'm going to solve using the hand method now. Take my hand, cover the variable and anything attached. I'm going to get rid of that minus negative 4 by add 4, copy, paste. Working left to right then. So we end up with 40 on the left equals, if I haven't used it, drag it down. We're going to divide by 5, copy, paste. We get 8 equals x. Answer is 8 equals x. So that's when there's a radical in there. So what about the next part when we have a square or a power of 2? What about when there's this square, which really means power of 2 here? Hand method totally kicks in. So you know your steps here. First of all, you got to get the simplify the x squared all by itself. No different than getting the x by itself. Same first step. Hand method, just like we've always done. Then we have to square root both sides. That's new. Take the square root to get rid of the power of 2. And then the last step, of course, you're going to solve, but you're going to get 2 answers because a square root. Anytime you take a square root, it gives you 2 answers. So those are our steps for that. As we start to solve, then the hand method's going to kick in here. So we're going to take our hand, cover the variable and anything attached. To get rid of the plus 10, we're going to minus 10, copy, paste. Working left to right then. I get 9n squared equals 81. This is a multiplication problem here. To get rid of the 9, we're going to divide by 9, copy, paste. So we get n squared equals 9. Getting rid of the power of 2, take the square root, copy, paste. We get n equals plus or minus 3. N equals plus or minus 3 is our answer. So take a look at what we did. We put our hand on the 9n squared. We subtract 10, copy, paste. If I haven't used it, drag it down. Now I have to get rid of this 9 right here. It's multiplication. To get rid of it, I divide, copy, paste. I left with an n squared equals 9. To get rid of the power of 2. Keep in mind, the way we get rid of power of 2 is we have to take the square root to get rid of it, copy, paste. So we get n dropping out of that because they cancel, equals plus or minus 3. Last problem of the day. And it's always, by the way, plus or minus when you take a square root. You put that plus 3 or minus 3. That's how we write it in math. Last problem of the day. Here we go. Hand method. Get that n squared all alone. So we're going to cover that with our hand. We're going to subtract 3, copy, paste. Working left to right then. If I haven't used it, I drag it down. And 1 take away 3 is negative 2. Divide by 2, copy, paste. And so we get n squared equals negative 1. That's a triangle problem there on the right, which is negative 1. To get rid of the power of 2, we're going to take the square root. Copy, paste. Working left to right then, squaring and rooting cancel each other out. We get n equals plus or minus the square root of negative 1. When we put that in our calculator, the calculator says, no, there's an error there. You can't have a negative on the inside of a radical. You never, ever, ever can have a negative on the inside of a radical. It's against the math rules. It actually turns in the imaginary number system, which you'll do in 11th grade math. Cannot have a negative in the inside. No. Can't do it. No answer. Can't do it. So we would say no solution is actually your answer to this. There is no solution to this. You cannot solve that. No solution. That's the answer I'm looking for in this problem because there's a negative inside the radical. Okay, so that kind of summarizes what we did today. Remember, we solved an equation with fraction bar, with a radical, which is also a square root, and then with a square, a power of 2. Go back and watch the video again if you're struggling. So some things to summarize. Make sure that you solve equations using the order of operations backwards. What I would recommend that you do instead is just say hand method on this step if you have followed me in our steps. You know hand method very, very well in my class. All right, 8th grade, keep going here. Also, remember x squares. If you're solving an x squared and you take once you take that square root, it has 2 answers. A plus or minus answer comes out of that. Don't forget to do that. Plus or minus answer. And the last one, remember, if you're solving this, it has no solution. You cannot have a negative inside the radical. So when you take the square root, copy, paste, you get x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 16. Cannot have a negative on the inside, no solution. Go ahead and get that summary done for today. All right, guys. So 8th grade, your homework for tonight is to get page 14 and 15 done due tomorrow. Have a fabulous